So how can a single company be a massive success and, at the exact same time, a pretty dismal failure? I know, it sounds totally impossible, but today we're going to look at a few simple charts for just one company, Deckers Outdoor, and see how they tell two completely opposite stories. It really all depends on your point of view.
Let's just start with a number, over 10,000%. I mean, just look at that. It's an almost unbelievable figure. So what on earth does it represent? Well, you can think of this as the very peak of the mountain we're about to climb. Let's see what the view is like from the top.
And here it is. This is where that number comes from. This is the all-time stock chart for Deckers. If you zoom all the way out, look at the whole shebang, the story seems pretty simple, right? It's just a story of huge, undeniable success. But what happens when we change our perspective? What if we don't look at its entire history, but maybe just a tiny slice of it? Let's just adjust our lens for a second.
And just like that, the whole story shatters. On the left, you've got that epic 10,000% journey we just saw. But on the right, that's the exact same company, just viewed through the lens of the past year. And that story is a loss of almost 25%. How can both of these things possibly be true at the same time?
So, which is it? Is Deckers this incredible success story, or is it actually a story of failure? The kind of shocking truth is, the answer completely depends on when you happen to ask the question.
Okay, so let's dig into that idea. Think of it like we're using a zoom lens on a camera. We're going to zoom in and out on the company's performance, right? We'll change the time frame and see what totally different stories pop out from the very same data. So let's start with the 10-year view. The picture here is still incredibly positive. A gain of over 1,200%. I mean, that's a 12x return on your money. By pretty much any standard, that's a huge, huge win. All right, now let's zoom in a little closer to the 5-year chart. You're still looking at a really healthy gain, over 112%. But hang on a second. See that? All of a sudden, the picture isn't quite so simple. You've got this dramatic peak and then a really sharp drop. That easy story of up and to the right is starting to get a little messy. Let's zoom in one more time to just the 2-year chart. And boom, the story completely flips on its head. An investor who bought in just 2 years ago isn't celebrating any kind of gain. They're sitting on an 18% loss. Same company, totally different story.
And if you look at the recent picture, it's just an absolute roller coaster. In the past year, you're down almost 25%. But what if you only look at the last 6 months? Now you're up almost 11%. And the last 3 months, you'd be sitting on a massive 45% gain. This is pure volatility. The story literally changes month to month.
You know, this kind of volatility really brings to mind that famous Warren Buffett quote. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. It just perfectly captures how your time frame, your patience can completely change your outcome.
And remember, these charts aren't just abstract lines on a screen. They represent real money for real people. Just look at these 3 purchase dates, all within just a few months of each other. If you bought back in July, you're pretty much breaking even. But if you'd waited until October, you'd be up over 18%. Your personal story is defined entirely by your entry point.
Okay, so we've seen success, we've seen failure, and we've seen a ton of whiplash in between. Let's pull back one last time and try to put all this together to figure out what these charts are really telling us. And this brings us to one final, absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle: context. This chart here compares Deckers' 5-year performance against the QQQ, which is basically an index that tracks 100 of the biggest companies on the NASDAQ. And what do you see? Despite all that volatility we just saw, Deckers has actually crushed the broader market by a huge margin. Context, it turns out, is everything. So what's the big takeaway here? It's this: the exact same data can be used to tell completely opposite stories. Someone can show you one chart to prove a company is a roaring success, and another person can use a different chart of the exact same company to prove it's a total failure. Both can be technically true, but neither one is telling you the whole story. So what did we really learn here? Well, we learned that a really long-term view can hide a lot of short-term pain, and that a short-term view can make you miss the forest for the trees. We learned that context is absolutely critical, and I think most importantly, we learned that your perspective literally creates the story that you see. So I'll leave you with a question to take with you. The next time you see a news headline or a post on social media or even a presentation at work with a chart that shows something either soaring or crashing, just ask yourself, what time frame are they showing me? And maybe more importantly,
What story are they choosing not to tell?